Hey everybody, what's up?
Sup?
This is the Tej, the Talent Jack, the T-Jack, whatever you want to feel like calling me, who gives a shit?
And the CW.
Cobalt Willow.
I'm-
No one panic and run away. Do not panic and run away. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. Oh god, no.
Fuck the CW.
Apparently so. Don't worry, he's a lot more interesting, as you already know. Than some network. Anyway. We're back. Doing something. When's the last time we did something like this? A Twixie fic. Wasn't it on our Me and You's collab channel?
I haven't looked at that in forever.
I know, right?
Not for our own. Certainly. Not on mine. You have one Twixie on mine.
Yeah, I have one Twixie on mine. I think. Is it only one? I forget! By the way, one day, I might go back and re-record some of my stuff. You know, when I get around to it. Trying to be more regular on this stuff. We skipped last week, and we skipped last week. We were just, what was it? We were too busy having sex or too busy watching TV? Oh no, we had company over.
Things.
Well, we had company over too, so we were busy. Otherwise, we probably would have had something up last week.
Forgive us, pretty please.
Jeez, I ain't gonna beg. What the hell do I look like?
Oh, I only have.
What am I, DC? When it comes to movie rights? The hell?
I only half mean it.
Okay, well, sorry. Anyways.
Well, anyway, regardless, it's for your channel today, so tell them what we're doing.
Very, very, very special and belated shout out. Happy birthday to you, Limey. I kind of didn't look at my Skype till this, the day, and it turned out his birthday was like a week ago, so I feel a little bad there. And I was like, what can I do? And he's like, I was like, what can I read for you? What can I get you? Something, anything. He's like, I'd like to have a Trixie Twilight Clopfic. And I'm all like, sure thing, no problem. We'd love to. He's like, thank you. And I'm like, yeah. So here we are.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well,
But
no, that's for later. It's a little gimmick at the end. Yeah. Anyways. And stay tuned at the end after the story's over. Don't just run away completely like a lot of you guys probably do. I don't know. Some of you guys ditch after 3 minutes. I don't know. Who cares? I'm not spying on you. YouTube statistics. Anyway. I've rambled on forever now. It's 3.5 minutes in and there's no story. What? Gotta fix that. Anyways. So, here we are. With a Twilight Trixie fic. Or Twixie for short, as I've seen it called. And it's called Ponies Do What? By Philosopher01. On Conviction. Philosopher01, really? Not 101? Yeah. And Trixie struggles with Twilight in the bedroom. Ponies do what? I can't believe I'm hearing this! Trixie looked down at the purple mare laying on her back beneath her, the blue bedsheets providing a stark color contrast to her curvy purple body. The only thing rivaling Trixie's expression of disbelief was the one dominating Twilight's own visage, as she stared up in confusion at the equally bewildered Azure magician straddling her.
It just sounds bizarre to me,
Twilight explained, struggling to avoid eye contact with her blue partner.
Why would you want to put your mouth there? It just doesn't seem sanitary.
With a sigh, Trixie rolled to her side to face Twilight. She placed a hoof on Twilight's cheek and looked deep into those magnificent purple eyes. She was fiercely attracted to this mare, and Twilight's own prudish nature only added fuel to this fire. She found her lack of knowledge in the bedroom adorable, but now she was feeling a bit frustrated. She wanted to do so many things to Twilight, but the bookish unicorn just had to question everything first. Doing her best to control her sexual frustration, Trixie searched for a way to explain to Twilight what she had in mind. "Look at this logically, Twilight," Trixie began. "Which is smaller, my hoof or my tongue?"
Your tongue?
Twilight answered, bemused. "Right. And which one is naturally moist?"
Your tongue.
Twilight answered, a blush forming on her face as she began to catch on. "Correct. Now, which do you think has more maneuverability inside your—"
Okay, I get it!
Twilight cut in quickly. "Good. So are you willing to give this a try?"
Other ponies really do this?
Twilight asked. Trixie just had to laugh at the sheer disbelief in that adorable face. "Yes, it's quite normal."
Well, okay, if you say so.
Twilight complied, her voice clearly betraying her hesitance. "You're supposed to enjoy it, Twilight. Why are you so nervous?" Trixie asked, planting a soft kiss on the frowning mare's snout.
I just like to have some background information before I try something. I almost never jump into anything without researching it first.
"Well, trust me, this will be far better without the research. You do trust me, right?"
Of course.
Twilight responded urgently, placing her hooves on Trixie's hips. She returned Trixie's earlier kiss. "Good. Just checking." Trixie teased with a smile. "Now, relax," Trixie instructed, pushing Twilight onto her back again and reassuming her stance over her. Her heart skipped a little as she looked down at the blushing unicorn below her. Hooves curled up to her chest. She felt herself grow ravenous for the mare, but forced herself to act slowly, the nervousness in Twilight's face still apparent. Trixie began planting a soft kiss on Twilight's lips. Twilight returned it gently, leaning up toward her. The purple unicorn felt a tongue run slowly across her lips, and responded by parting them. Trixie took the opportunity to quickly thrust her tongue into the opening, eliciting a surprised and pleasured moan from Twilight. The sound made Trixie's head spin, desire clouding her mind. She leaned into Twilight, who responded by wrapping her hooves around Trixie's neck, their hearts both thumping, one out of pure adrenaline, and another a mixture of nervousness and excitement. The two lost themselves in the kiss, each attempting to bring themselves physically closer to the other, despite them already being in complete contact. The kiss had taken Trixie entirely by surprise, who had only intended it as a starting point. She broke it and found herself gasping for air. Below her, Twilight panted in unison, her flushed cheeks glowing on her face. "Wow, that I didn't expect," Trixie spluttered, chest heaving. A dampness was growing at an alarming rate between her legs.
What's the matter?
Twilight stammered.
Did I do something wrong?
"No, you did that far too right."
I'm sorry,
Twilight responded, looking suddenly panicked. "Yes, you should be," Trixie grinned. "You've been very bad."
What have I done?
Twilight squeaked, a look of horror inching her features. Trixie suddenly realized the fear was genuine. Twilight? You know I was only joking, right?"
About what I've done?
"Yes, Please tell me you are at least familiar with the concept of dirty talk. Trixie threw a hoof up to her face, rolling onto her back again. Honestly, she was kind of grateful for the sudden interruption this time. It gave her a moment for her head to clear. After a few moments, she burst out into laughter.
Did I miss something?
Twilight asked, puffing herself up on an elbow and turning to Trixie. You're just hilarious sometimes, Trixie responded between chortles, clutching her sides.
Thanks, I guess.
Ponies sometimes pretend to say dirty things to each other to make some excitement. Some even insult each other, Trixie explained.
How is saying mean things supposed to make you want to be with a pony more?
Trixie opened her mouth for a rebuttal, but she found she did not have an adequate answer. She felt a little irritated as she started to observe another bedroom session with Twilight turning into a lecture. Some ponies just like it, Trixie snapped, losing her patience. Like I said, just try to go along with things.
Well, it was all fine until you started telling me I should be sorry.
Trixie quickly pulled Twilight into another kiss, diffusing the ludicrous argument. She ran a hoof through Twilight's glossy mane, reveling in the soft, warm texture of its strands. Twilight threw her hooves around Trixie's shoulders again, miraculously having decided to drop the discussion. Thanking her stars for this second chance, Trixie once again attempted to proceed with her plan. She broke away from Twilight's lips, moving toward her neck. She planted a soft, wet kiss under her ear, followed by a quick nibble of her teeth. She heard Twilight breathe deeply as she clamped her teeth down on her skin. She continued down her neck towards her chest, gently biting all the way. Twilight released a light squeak every time Trixie bit particularly hard, her hooves twitching with each pinch. As Trixie reached Twilight's belly, she noticed the lavender mare's breathing increase rapidly. She slowed down a little to see if it would pass, but as she drew nearer to her target, the heaving grew faster and louder. Trixie soon realized Twilight was hyperventilating. She glanced down at her ultimate destination, but found no clear sign of excitement on Twilight's part. With another sigh, she pulled herself back up from the panicking pony. Twilight, she called urgently, touching her cheek again.
Yes?
Twilight stammered in between breaths. Relax, Twilight. It's all right. Twilight closed her eyes and took a few deep breaths, struggling to take control of her nerves. Upon regaining her composure, she opened her eyes, and a miserable frown dominated her face.
I'm sorry, Trixie. I'm useless at this.
Despite Trixie's own building sexual frustration, she didn't feel angry at the dejected mare. She couldn't. She only smiled in response. It's okay. You're not useless, just nervous.
I'm sorry.
Twilight apologized again, placing a hoof on Trixie's chest and turning her eyes toward it. Trixie felt equal parts empathy and desire as she lay with her frowning lover. She racked her brain for some way to salvage the moment. Suddenly, an idea struck her. Are you reading something at the moment, Twi?
Huh?
Twilight looked up at Trixie.
You mean a book?
Yeah. What book are you reading right now?
Well, I was just in the middle of a history of magical mechanics before you suggested we do this.
Go grab your book.
Are we finished?
Twilight asked, puzzled. Just go grab your book, Trixie ordered, with a wave of her hoof. Confused, Twilight complied, jumping out of bed and heading downstairs. She returned moments later with the large tome levitating beside her. Trixie was propped up on her shoulder, head and hoof, half-lidded eyes inviting Twilight back to the mattress. She beckoned Twilight forth with her hoof. As Twilight jumped back on the bed, Trixie lay on her back again. Now, go to whatever page you were on last and continue reading, Trixie instructed. Just concentrate on your book, but stay laying as you are.
Okay.
Twilight agreed, floating the book above her and opening it at her bookmark. She found the paragraph and she left on resumed reading. Seeing her opportunity, Trixie put Plan B into action. She started again at Twilight's chest, nibbling her way down to her body. A few quick gasps and squeaks could be heard from Twilight as before, but her breathing seemed to stay steady. Trixie pressed on. She hesitated as she reached the base of Twilight's stomach, observing how her partner was reacting. Besides some shuffling of hooves, all seemed well. To her surprise, Twilight suddenly spoke up.
Please keep going, Trixie,
Twilight whispered in a breathless voice. Trixie felt herself grow incredibly hot at that request, the desire dripping from Twilight's words causing her face and other regions to heat up. A musky smell below her snout indicated the plan was working. By the time Trixie finally reached her target, Twilight was dripping wet. Trixie paused for a moment, not knowing whether she should feel happy or insulted, the book having achieved the task which she had earlier failed at. She soon shook her head with a grin, deciding she was at least partly responsible for Twilight's readiness. Deciding Twilight had gotten enough time to prepare, she rubbed her snout along the opening of Twilight's lower lips. A soft moan traveled down from Twilight's mouth. Trixie plunged in. Twilight gasped as she suddenly felt herself being entered by Trixie's slippery appendage. She nearly dropped the book. She was levitating right on her face. She struggled to continue reading, eyesight blurring from the sensations occurring below. She attempted to speak up in protest, as she found herself unable to finish a particularly interesting paragraph.
Trixie?
Was all she managed to groan. Her request drowned in a sea of pleasure. It was only made worse by the fact that Trixie misinterpreted her name being called as a signal for more, to which Trixie complied. Twilight again gasped as Trixie picked up the pace, exploring inside of her, hitting multiple nerves and seizing control of Twilight's body from her. She tossed the book to one side as she gave up trying to read, her brain unable to process the data sent by her retinas. She felt a building tension between her legs as Trixie continued her work. She placed her hooves on Trixie's head, her back arching upwards as she quickly approached her climax.
Trixie!
She gasped.
I'm gonna...
Twilight squealed as waves of pleasure rocketed through her body. Trixie was assaulted by a quick and sudden flow from her workplace. Twilight's moans made Trixie dizzy again, and upon placing a hoof towards the region between her own legs, she found that she was sopping wet, a similar tension building in her damp regions. Pulling herself quickly to head height beside her panting lover, she whispered, "I just need a little help, Twilight." She took Twilight's hoof and placed it between her own legs. Twilight nodded in response. Eyes shut, her head still spinning from her climax seconds ago. She had just enough mental capacity to understand Trixie's request, and rubbed her partner's nether regions. Trixie bit her lip as Twilight's hoof provided the last push she needed, and moaned as she felt herself achieve relief moments later. Quivering as waves of pleasure coursed through her body, the two lay face to face, panting for breath. "Thank you, Twilight," Trixie whispered, taking her lover's face in her hoof again.
That was wonderful, Trixie,
Twilight smiled, touching Trixie's hoof with her own. "Well, of course it was," Trixie grinned. "What else would you expect from Trixie?" The azure unicorn stared into her partner's eyes. "I love you, Twilight, and I wanted to show you." Twilight cuddled up to Trixie, wrapping her hooves around her body and resting her head on Trixie's heaving chest.
I know.
Twilight responded.
I love you too, Trixie.
Well, I'm still a little slow, but, hey, I can still narrate. Woohoo!
Yay.
Yes, great news, everybody. I can read! Though you probably wouldn't know this, but there were tons of bloopers in this. Yeah, it's hard for me to keep up my sexy tone. That's a little rusty. I mean, not as rusty as you would think. It's more of, wait, other people are going to be hearing this. Fuck. And as soon as that thought enters my head, I choke and get all nervous for 3 seconds, but who cares?
Oh, don't worry.
That and making Trixie sound sultry, that was a little hard for me. Considering I don't like my voice going up so high, so I really get nervous all of a sudden. I know, but, you give me Fluttershy and I make that sound sexy, that's a whole nother story.
What?
I love you. But.
Just reminiscing.
Yes. Wait, reminiscing what? Actually, don't answer that. But yeah, stay tuned. Stay tuned, everybody. You may be wondering, why? Isn't it over? Wait, that bar down there, it's only at the halfway point or something. Or the 2/3 point. I have no idea. That's right. Because it ain't over, folks. That's right. Surprise, Limey. You get a double story feature.
Numero dos.
Yeah. I know. I don't usually do this. I probably won't do this really very often. It's just because they're both pretty short, so I figured, hell, might as well have my first probably 45-minute or so flick on here. And it's another Twixie. This one's straight up the sex. Straight up of the sex. Now, backstory knew nothing, so I figured, hell, why not? Let's just go. So, yeah.
Yep. Let's go.
Yep. It's called Toy. By Rarity EQM. Toy. If you're sure about this, had been the last thing Trixie had said, as she followed Twilight into the bedroom for her Valentine's Day surprise. The day had slipped by with creeping romantic tension, and lovingly slipped kisses, and now that things were winding down after a loving evening, Twilight had promised Trixie one last surprise of the day, which led her to laying on the bed as Twilight collected her surprise. Trixie leaned back, blushing warmingly as Twilight finally meandered over to her and unscrewed a jar of slick, sugary-smelling substance. It hummed in a magical aura and floated back to the nightstand, while Twilight didn't waste a moment reaching down to slowly spread Trixie's dewy petals apart and apply the lubrication in slow, teasing swirls. Trixie squeaked cutely, bucking her hips forward at Twilight's frozen throbbing. The purple pony rolled her eyes, focusing her magic into tight little spirals inside of Trixie.
Hold still.
She purred quietly, a wicked grin wrapped around her muzzle, as Trixie cutely squirmed and squeaked. It's not my fault. That's cold. She giggled and gasped as Twilight's magic twirled inside, circling and spiraling. Twilight grinned as Trixie's eyes crossed and she gave a happy little moan of a coo, melting into the bed as her mirror friend got her good and slick.
See? I told you you'd like this.
Twilight whispered quietly, planting the end of the ruby tiny toy against Trixie's sex. A long, thick, ruby-colored toy, shaped like a stallion at both ends. Sure, Twilight had talked Trixie into trying something new, but this was the first time she'd actually seen the device. Just looking at its length Trixie could imagine what Twilight had in mind when she said she wanted to try something new. It made her shiver and grin. Hurry up already, Trixie grumbled, giving a squeak at Twilight's rather sudden, insistent shove. She slid the toy deeper and deeper into Trixie's tunnel, going as slowly as possible, watching Trixie's reactions. The other mage had taken to looking away, blushing warmly as her mere friend lewdly started to masturbate her. For a moment, Trixie was confused. She had thought the length of that lengthy bit of rubber was for the two of them, but Twilight was plunging it in and out of Trixie's tunnel like she were possessed. I thought it was for the both of us, Trixie sputtered, while Twilight gave a loving little giggle and bit her lower lip, blushing faintly. She had forgotten. Trixie grinned as Twilight stammered, and she could tell right away that Twilight had lost her focus to lust.
Oh, I was just...
She sputtered and paused to figure out exactly how to situate herself. Finally, the purple mare climbed to her hooves onto the bed with a wobbly twist of her hips, and she positioned herself so her privates were now flush with the other end of the toy.
Move your hips. Let me...
Twilight purred as the toy slipped into her. She bounced her rear end gently, sending inch after inch of the toy into her, and she got closer and closer to Trixie. Inch after inch of the toy sinking into her. Careful, Trixie moaned quietly, clutching Twilight's shoulders as tightly as she could in a firm, loving squeeze. Finally, they ended up laying belly to belly. She could feel Twilight twist her hips, gently maneuvering the lengthy device in between them. It slid in and out of Trixie's delicate petals with a lewd and wet sound that echoed through the room. She blushed as Twilight was blushing harder, clutching the other girl tightly in her arms. Twilight gave a helpless, mewing moan and thrust her hips.
I didn't know anything could feel like this,
she sputtered, clutching Trixie intimately and resting her chin on the girl's shoulder. Trixie's hips moved in tandem, starting to fall into a slow, extremely pleasurable rhythm. More wet, slick sound effects accompanying their love-making, filling the library with the hot sounds of passionate sex. It lasted that way for a full minute, accompanied with soft, squeaking moans and needy squeezes. It all came to a sudden rushing halt, however, when Trixie gave a particularly hard thrust at the same time Twilight had. Their thighs slapped together with a wet, sudden smack of blinding pleasure. Trixie's slippery flower had made contact with Twilight's. The toy lost between the two of them, but what more was Trixie's clit had lined up almost perfectly with Twilight's, and now was pleasurably nuzzling against Twilight's little pink pearl. The electric shock of pleasure had frozen to both of them solid, but now that they were slowly crawling over the maddening sensation, things had been taken up a notch. A notch Trixie was very eager to explore. She threw every muscle she had into a surprising show of strength, enough to lift Twilight in the air and turn her over, now sitting upright and thrusting madly with her hips in a wet, steady that echoed through the room. They bounced together, roughly, passionately, lovingly, but mostly roughly, very roughly. The two of them violently thrust their hips together, and had they not locked into a suckling kiss, one of them might have complained.
Trixie, gonna come?
Twilight whimpered, begging the other mage quietly as she slipped the toy in and out of her aching tunnel and kissed at Trixie's clit at the same time. Trixie tossed her sweaty hair backwards and gave a quiet groan, pulling away from the kiss and rolling atop her mare friend in a frenzy of trembling thrust. Suddenly, she wasn't on the bed anymore. The two of them had tumbled right off onto the floor and hadn't noticed, nor did the others seem to mind. "Me too. Me too," Trixie whimpered quietly. Twilight had her chin resting on her shoulder, and Trixie's was resting on Twilight's. They were pressed so close to each other, Trixie could feel the rapid throbbing of Twilight's heart against her own. As much as she wanted to hold on and linger in the dizzy sensations, Twilight had other plans, and thrust her hips firmly against Trixie's, mimicking her earlier thrust. It was enough to put both the girls into a howling shriek of passion as their climaxes overcame one and the other. Her juices splashed all over Twilight's sweet, pouting pussy, or did Twilight splash all over hers? It didn't matter. Trixie could hardly think straight, but she wanted more. Trixie moaned lovingly over Twilight's shoulder, squeezing the girl as tightly as she could against her. That had been absolutely heavenly. In a frenzied rush of passion, Trixie reoriented herself and kissed Twilight furiously. Twilight kissed in return, her lips lovingly exploring Trixie's own, while the gentle aftershocks of her climax rumbled through her. Together they danced in a sticky, sensual rhythm. Every movement of Twilight's new toy squished and twisted inside of them both with every movement they made. It was almost like a game. The right thrusts and movements could generate a quick bit of pleasure, and they were both working to win. Finally, the purple unicorn cuddled into her arms.
Happy Valentine's Day. You like the toy?
Twilight squeaked through her heavy gasp pants. Trixie smiled warmly and nodded her head. Yeah, you were right. It's a great toy, and she grinned and frowned when Twilight frowned. What's wrong? She cooed. Twilight sadly shook her head.
I forgot the batteries for it downstairs.
Okay, normally I would have said the end, but I couldn't hold it after that. Oh gosh, that was great. That was great. That was great. Hope you guys enjoyed the double feature. Like I said, toy seemed short enough where I figured, hell, why don't I just join it in? Yeah.
Totally.
I'll probably add in the comment section the option to skip to the time in case, you guys really like one or the other, like toy more than ponies do what. Yeah, so I'll probably put a little thing down there in the comment before the comment section that shows how long each story is. But yeah. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed.
And for anyone who's interested, I got our previous reading up on my channel, so just so you know, it's finally there. Check it out. It was fun.
Yep. Well, it was fun.
This was fun too.
Yes. Yeah, of course. They're both for fun.
Yes.
I might have to have sex now with you.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah, definitely. Alright. So yes, that's in your head now. The images of Talent Jack and Cobalt Willow ponies going at it.
Except you're going to get Twilight with some, right?
Probably. More than likely.
Yeah.
Yes. That was what was on the other channel. It was a vinyl Twilight thick. That's what it was.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
didn't forget that one.
that's why I was trying to remember what
Oh.
thick it was.
Oh.
I knew it had Twilight. Anyways,
Yep.
well, yes, memory now is all served. But yeah.
Alright. Guess that's it, right?
Yeah. See you guys. It was fun while it lasted.
Oh, we'll be back soon.
Of course. Hopefully see you next week.
Bye.